Alright, Backpacker Geek here, and I am going to give you a quick review of the Trail Glove 3. This is Merrell's Minimalist Trail Runner that I have been using for the past 2 years, and really my favorite shoe. So I went from wearing hiking boots 24/7 to starting wearing some minimalist shoes. I tried Kegos and sandals, other minimalist wear. Wanting a little bit more protection, I tried out the Trail Glove 3s and fell in love with them. So this is a new Trail Glove 3 I've been wearing just for a couple weeks. So it's got a 0 drop, meaning there's no difference in the height between the toes and the heel in terms of distance between the ground and your foot. That's defining characteristic of minimalist trail runners that have become the big craze fad since barefoot running and Born to Run became popular. So you got the outer sole with some lugs. It's not that big. It doesn't have super traction in mud. But I found great traction on wet rocks, normal trail. It's really just mud where you're going to slip around, especially if you go on your heel. If I kind of tiptoe in mud, I'm usually fine. If I try to, heel strike, I'm going to slip and slide all around. So you got the rubber outsole. It's got a foam midsole. So the foam kind of starts here, goes around there, kind of some protection, and your arch right here is all that foam midsole. Then you got the upper, which is just mesh, kind of what I think they call like 3D mesh, that's similar to what's sometimes used on some of the lighter backpacks. Very light, not waterproof at all. Water and mud will just come through this, but as you run and walk, the water just squeezes out of the mesh. No wind protection, so on a cold wind it blows through here, but your feet do not get very sweaty in here because the sweat can escape. Lacing system, so it's got two on each side, these fabric poles that the lacing goes through, that kind of pulls from the bottom and pulls the shoe closer to your foot. However, I wear my laces very loose, and I'll show you how I do that on my older shoe in a moment. So I like to wear my laces really loose, have the shoe almost falling off. I think it's about a 10 millimeter thickness between the ground going through the outer and the midsole. One big thing is there is no removable inner insole. Okay, so this is all stitched in, just fabric covering that, which is one of the main disadvantages I'll talk about in a moment. We've got a piece of, I think this is leather or maybe a rubberized synthetic fabric that goes around the toe. Actually, I don't think it's leather. So that gives you some toe protection, but if you stub your toe, you feel it. So just like any other, minimalist shoes, this teaches you to be a little bit more careful with where you place your feet and what you kick. There is I think a plastic rock guard in that midsole, so some protection for rocks kind of trying to pierce through that sole, but pretty good ground feel. Okay, so this is a new shoe. I've only been wearing for a few weeks. Here is one that I've been wearing for about 2 years. Hiking, running, some running, mostly a lot of hiking, and just wearing it 24/7, day to day. So you can see a good bit of wear on the outsole, but not as much as I would expect on a boot that if I was wearing it all the time. So you can see I'm getting down to the foam midsole in spots, and Because it's minimalist, you feel the ground, so I'm much less likely to scuff my feet along against the ground when I'm walking. Um, and so that helps to decrease the amount of wear you get on your outsole. Some separation you can see there, separating from the upper, especially around the toe. The outsole is kind of two pieces of rubber, this lighter gray and the darker gray. So you can see in some spots, there, you can see there it's starting to separate from the midsole. All right, but nothing like, it's not like flopping around when I walk, it's just a little piece of dirt or something can get in there. Obviously it's not waterproof, so that doesn't affect the waterproofing. Upper is in great shape, okay, really no damage to any of the stitching, any of the mesh, basically in pretty much new condition, pristine condition, the upper. Very happy with that. The insole is a different story. Okay, it's a little bit hard to see, but so the insole has a kind of meshy fabric on the top, and then it has a more rubbery, very thin fabric, 2 layers of that below that, and I basically worn all the way down through those fabrics down to the foam midsole on the heel and up here on the toes. So this fabric here is just kind of all a mess, all worn down and ripped up. I've taken, kind of ripped out pieces. I probably should just go to town with some scissors and just cut it all out because it's just a mess. So I don't wear socks a lot when I hike in these. I just go barefoot. So that might have increased the amount of wear that I do on this. So one of the big drawbacks is that it doesn't have a removable insole. So, other trail runners that come with a removable insole, as you kind of wear down that insole, you can just replace it with a new one. So if the outer shoe is still in good shape, you can just keep wearing them. Whereas these, I think, probably the biggest life, the thing that shortens the life is just wearing down that sewn in insole to the point where, now my foot is on that foam midsole and the ground is touching that foam midsole. So just all that's between me is just that piece of foam midsole and the ground. Also, if you needed more arch support or wanted more cushion, you'd need to just put a new, you'd need to insert like a Superfeet insole on top of that sewn in insole. So, I think a better design would be to have not sewn in that insole. Maybe it would, weigh a little bit more. Maybe it'd be like 8 ounces per shoe with a removable insole. But then you could choose to take it out. Maybe it would be only like 6 ounces without it. So rather than 7 ounces with the sewn insole. So that would be probably the one complaint I have with that. Benefit of is that insole doesn't move around. Okay, so you don't have any piece of insole moving around if it doesn't quite perfectly fit your shoe. New pair, obviously no wear to that insole, but I assume as I wear these, I'm going to do the same thing to those. So here is the way I do my lacing. So I replaced pretty much very soon after I bought my first pair, I replaced the lacing with elastic cord. And with a little toggle there, which I can tighten. So, and there's other, you can buy these, but I just used some elastic cord I had around, very thinner than usually the elastic stuff that you see, elastic shoelaces that you see that, for like really popular with triathletes. So very light. So I probably saved, half an ounce, quarter of an ounce from replacing the shoelaces. So all in all, I love the trail gloves. If you, I hike 20 miles a day, up the peaks in the White Mountains with 20-pound pack on, no problem. I'm just more careful where I place my feet than I used to be with my with my hiking boots, but wearing trail runners has been really helpful for my knees, putting a lot less wear and tear on my knees, and I just really love them. Other great issue is, they dry out super fast, so I can hike through, walk right through a creek, hike along in puddles when the trail's, a river, and they will dry out, just by hiking. So just in the process of hiking, they'll dry out. If they get super muddy, just walk through a creek or, rinse them in the creek, and they dry out pretty fast. So great shoes, highly recommended. Merrell Trail Glove 3s.